The American fleet was lined up with a number of merchant vessels that were seeking its protection. 103 men were left to destroy it, and the whole fleet went up one by one by one by one. Just as the British rounded Bristol Landing, or Pig Point, they could see them lined up. This marsh wasn't here then. This river was much wider then. If you look at the highlands on either side, you see what was the shoreline that they saw.
Both before and after the War of 1812, many of Maryland's main ports of entry into the U.S. were along the Patuxent River. Ships would navigate the waterway, often carrying slaves or tobacco en route.
Our river reach here was navigable in colonial times up to about 1800, as far north as Bowie, or what is now Bowie, to Queen Anne's Bridge. Queen Anne's Town was an international seaport, believe it or not. And today I guess there's about 40 or 50 families maximum living in the immediate area.
But today the only ships you'll find in the Patuxent are underwater. Urban growth and poor farmland practices have caused silt to build up, making the river impossible to navigate. When you're talking about the depth or the quality of the water, what's happened since when the British first sailed up here?
Well, one obvious thing is that there's less bottom. The water is much shallower because there's a lot of silt and mud and other things that have poured into the waterway from the surrounding ground disturbance, construction activity, and runoff from highway construction and things of that sort. So there's less navigable channel. You can't get deeper water, you can't get bigger ships up, and the area becomes less of a highway. It used to be a highway for civilization. It becomes more of a sewer, more of a drainage way for the surrounding paved surfaces.
Tutman says protecting the river is a constant struggle.
Well, I think the future hangs in balance. On one side, we have an economy that's in rough shape, and so things have slowed down. And so we might have an opportunity to preserve more, get a little more momentum up for saving some things. The downside, however, is that because in the Maryland we use the transfer tax on real estate transactions to fund preservation, that means there's less public money to buy land, less public money to buy parks, less public money to put easements on land in order to preserve it for the public interest.
Coming up, it may look like I'm walking through a morgue, but housed in this facility are some of NASA's greatest artifacts. That story coming up next on CTV News. Walking into this environmental storage unit is like taking a step back in time. Located at the Smithsonian's Paul E. Garber facility is a little-known treasure that eerily resembles a morgue. It's the place that every known NASA spacesuit is housed. Each outfit is carefully preserved in a temperature and humidity-controlled unit. It's then stuffed with a mannequin to preserve its shape, giving the appearance that a real body still lies within the spacesuit.
We're storing them under these conditions because we found that a lower temperature, lower humidity keeps them stable. Because even though the spacesuits were built to withstand the rigors of spaceflight, they weren't built to withstand the conditions here on Earth. High humidity, high temperature, and the materials that they used are not very long lasting. They were made to last for a very short period of time, a period of flight of about 2 weeks at the very maximum. And here we are trying to preserve things for posterity for 50 or more years. And some of these objects are as old as 50 years old now.
Even never-worn prototypes, such as this one, are stored here. Made of metal, this suit weighs a lot more than the ones that made it off the planet. But as Dr. Lewis reminds us, with zero gravity, it doesn't really matter how much the suit weighs. Helmets, boots, and gloves are all stored here, including this pair, which is made of shark skin and stainless steel fingernails. It's believed the material was used to help turn fine dials while maintaining a spy satellite. But of all the artifacts housed in this facility, This spacesuit is by far the most well-known.
Of course, the most notable one is Neil Armstrong's suit. That's the one that everyone wants to see. It's the first spacesuit that touched the surface of another world. It still has the lunar dust on it. We've discovered that lunar dust is very, very sticky, and it's adhered to the Teflon fabric that's on the outside of the suit and embedded itself in there.
Of all the spacesuits stored here, this one is by far the dirtiest, but it's no ordinary dirt. It's actual lunar dust that's remained attached to the spacesuit. And this dirtiest of spacesuits belongs to Harrison Schmitt. The astronaut said he had a lot of fun rolling around in the dirt. It was a geologist's dream.
They're form-fitting life support spacecraft for the astronauts. So they're very, very personal, and also they're very, very huge in terms of being symbolic of an entire program, an entire quest for spaceflight, for human spaceflight.
Dr. Lewis says the materials used in future spacesuits will have to change if astronauts ever plan to do long-term space flights, particularly if humans ever intend to land on Mars. From Suitland, Patricia Villone, CTV News.